Hi everyone, and you are welcome to this lecture, Useful Functions with Loops. In this lecture, I'm going to introduce you to three functions that you are going to use a lot when you use for loop. The first function is range, the second function is enumerate, and the third function is zip. And I will end up this lecture by a quick summary, so let's get started. The first function, range. Range is a function that returns an iterable which generates a sequence of numbers starting from start, incrementing by step, and stopping before stop. So from this we can understand that you have to pass three arguments to the range function: start, stop, step. This table shows the details of this parameter. The first one, which is start, it's an integer number specifying the start value, and the default value of this parameter is 0. So if you don't pass start, by default is 0. The second parameter is stop. Stop, it's an integer number specifying the last value, and keep in mind that last value is not included in the generated number, and this parameter is compulsory and you have to pass it. The last parameter is step, and step, it's a parameter which is integer number that specifies the incrementation step, and the default value for this parameter is 1. So if you don't pass, by default it will take the value 1. Now let's move to PyCharm IDE to see some examples about range function. The first example that I want to show you is the following. Let me say that a equal to range, and look, it's a built-in function, no need to import anything, and I will say 1, 10, 2. Now let me print a and print the type of a and run. As you see here, when I print a, I got range from 1 to 10 with a step of 2. So I don't get the actual numbers, and keep this in your mind because this is an object right now. And the type of this object, it's from the class range, and range, it's from the type iterable. Now in order to extract the items, you have to use for loop. So I will say for x in a, print x, and I will comment these two lines and run. As you see here, I get the numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So from 1 to 10, and 10 is not included with a step of 2. Now, if I remove this argument, which is 2, and run, I will get the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. And in this case, the step by default is 1. Now, if I remove the first parameter, which is start, and run again, you will see now that number 0 is printed. In the previous example, we start from 1. So when you don't put start, by default, we will start printing from 0. So keep in mind, pause, start, and step are optional parameters for this function. Now let's talk about the second function, which is enumerate. Enumerate, it's a function that takes an iterable. Please refer to the previous lecture in which we talk about iteration, iterable, and iterator. Let's get back now to enumerate. Enumerate, it's a function that takes an iterable and returns another iterable, generating a counted version of the original iterable. And keep in mind that the counter starts from start parameter. So we can understand from this definition that enumerate takes two parameters, iterable and from where to start the counter. Let's see this table which shows these parameters details. So the first one, which is iterable, and we know that iterable, it's any object that can be iterated over in a for loop like list, dictionary, etc. And start, it's the initial value of the counter, and by default it's 0. So if you don't put anything, the counter will start from 0. Now let's move to PyCharm IDE to see how we can get a counted version from the iterable. Let me assume that I have the following tuple: a equal to a, b, c. Now if I say e equal to enumerate, and it's a built-in function, a, and then I print e and I print type of e and run. As you see here, e is just an enumerate object, and its type from enumerate class. E is an iterable object, so we will not see the values until we use for loop. Let me now comment this part and let's extract the items. I will say for, and because enumerate will give me an iterable which is a counted version of the original iterable, so I will expect two values. The first one, it's the counter value, and the second one, it's the actual item inside my iterable. So I will say enumerate a, and I will print counter, comma, I will keep some spaces, then I will print item. Run. As you see here, I got 0, 1, 2, which is the value of CNT variable, and this is the counter. Item, I got ABC, which are the original items inside my iterable, which is in this case a Python tuple. Now let me put here for example 2 and run. You will see now that the counter starts from 2 in this case, and I got 2, 3, 4 because I have 3 items. And that's all for this function. The third and last function that I want to talk about is zip function. Zip is a function that takes several iterables and returns one iterable aggregating all inputs together. The main use case of zip function is when I want to loop over 2 or more than 2 iterables together. So if you want to use zip function, usually we say zip asterisk iterables. And asterisk here mean that you can pass as many as you want from these iterables. So again, what's iterable? It's any object that can be iterated over in a for loop. Let's move now to PyCharm IDE to see some examples. Let me assume that I have the following two lists. A equal to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. B equal to A, B, C, D, E, F. Now I want to print 1, A, 2, B, 3, C, and so on. So I want to loop over these two iterables together. So I will say for item A, comma, item B in zip function, and here I will put A, comma, B. Then I will print item A, comma, item B. Then I will run. And as you see here, I got 1A, 2B, 3C, and so on. So zip function mainly is to loop over multiple iterables together. Also, you have to know that you can loop over as many as iterable you want. So if I say C equal to, and here I put again the same items, let me say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And here I put C, but now I have to put 3 variables because I have 3 iterables, then item C and print. So I will get 1A1, 1A1, 2B2, 2B2, and so on. So don't forget you can pass as many items as you want. Let's say here we have 7, 8. In this case, these 3 lists have different length. So what is the default behavior in this case of zip function? Let's see. If I run, I will get exactly the same items printed like before. So by default, zip function will consider the items from each list until the location of the last item of the shortest list. In this case, here we have 6 items, here we have 6, here we have 8. So the shortest length is 6, and we will print only 6 items in this case. The last idea that I want to show you about zip function is the following. If I put zip now inside a variable, let's say z, and I print z and I print type of z and run, as you see, z by itself, it's just an object, and this object has no items yet, and the type of this object is from the zip class, which is a type of an iterable. And that's all for this code session. Now let's summarize what we have learned in this lecture. We have learned about 3 functions that can be used with for loop. The first function is range, and range generates a sequence of numbers starting from start, incrementing by step, and stopping before stop. The second function is enumerate, and this function takes an iterable and returns another iterable, generating a counted version of the original iterable. We see also zip function, and zip it's a function that takes several iterables, as many as you want, and returns one iterable aggregating all the inputs. Please refer to the file useful functions with loops appendix, in which you will find all these functions have been summarized. Also refer to the file useful functions with loops challenges, in which you will find some challenges to practice what you have learned in this lecture. Thank you very much for your time, and if you are available, join me in the next lecture.